Facebook announced that they're spending $300 million on local news stations across the country, and the media has completely missed what this story is really about. You know, Farron, I looked at this Reuters story, and I had the same reaction you did. It's like this reporter, there's no critical thinking. When I read this story, the Reuters story, I almost said, I thought it was a press release. You know, okay, so nobody gets what Facebook's really up to. Here, take it from there. Let's talk about it.
Right. Facebook says, hey, you know, we're concerned about the state of journalism in the United States, so we're gonna give you $300 million. We're gonna go around the country. They've said this program is gonna be like the Peace Corps, but for local news journalism. They described it as like a Peace Corps. Yeah. And they're gonna spend $300 million helping, is the word they use. We're gonna help local newsrooms. We're going to teach you how to hire people. We're going to show you how to attract advertisers. So essentially, they're doing the job of what should be a consultant, something people get paid
people have
to
consultants to do
right.
that. Okay, what's really happening here is Facebook is under the gun. I mean, everybody's catching up with who Mark Zuckerberg really is.
Yeah.
Okay, we find he's working for the government, just like Bezos is doing. He's collecting our phone information, our text information. He's gathering up as much personal information as he can about us to spy on us. Okay, that's the first thing. And if you watch the hearings that they had in Congress, they were a joke.
Yeah.
It was like, here, let me throw you a softball, Mr. Zuckerberg. Why don't you try to answer this one? Okay, so we know what's happening. What he's headed to is a Facebook news service. It is literally a national Facebook news service. So the way you do that, and the way you avoid criticism is you buy it up.
Yeah.
You know, we're seeing
Sinclair.
Sinclair. Yes, Sinclair is doing the same thing. They watched what Sinclair was doing, so they said, hey, this is a great idea. Let's go ahead and do it.
Well, it's a lot like, you know, Sinclair now, they have the bottom line with Boris, and he comes on, he looks like a guy that's probably in your local newsroom, giving you this, you know, fact-free opinion. And before that, we did segments on the guy. Was it Mark Hyman? Many years ago was the same way. Executive at Sinclair, but most people thought he was just a local guy giving them opinion. Pretty soon it's going to be Mark Zuckerberg coming in, giving you...
the local guy, Mark Zuckerberg.
Right, but this is absolutely influence. They're buying influence by giving this $300 million to these local news stations because Facebook knows polls show that people trust their local news more than they do
That's right.
the national news shows.
In journalism school, the first thing you learn is local, local, local. Okay, they did the same thing in the UK last year. It was $6 million that they put in because the UK was all over them. Look, if you're hanging out on Facebook nowadays, first of all, you're kind of old, you know, because I mean, people kind of understand that's kind of yesterday's news. It's getting skew really, really old. But the thing is not to understand that this guy has become the gatekeeper of all of our ideas. Let me give you an example. This happened with us, as a matter of fact. We do stories. We were doing a story through Drug Safety News, which is stories that we send out through Drug Safety News about drugs that are killing people and why we ought to be aware that they're killing people. So we did a story on the opioids. It was telling the story of how the opioid crisis has progressed, how people are dying at record levels, and how there's maybe some hope for them because they can get care. So Facebook would not run it. They wouldn't run it. And here's why. They said they had issues trying to post the latest article on the Facebook site because the page is not authorized to run content that refers to addiction help and recovery. Okay, I read exactly what they said. We can't run, our matrix or whatever that they use, some bonehead snowflake in wherever they live, says, oh, we can't run this because you're talking about addiction and recovery. And that's all the information we got. But here's the point. They've become the gatekeeper for ideas, Farron. I mean, you know, if you're too far left, we can't use that because it doesn't fit into what we stand for. If you're too far right, we can't use that. The notion of ideas is what projects any culture, whether they're good ideas or bad ideas, whether they're ideas that you agree with or don't agree with. And Zuckerberg is the guy that now he's like Oz. Zuckerberg wants to become Oz. And he says, if my people don't agree with it, we don't know who his people are. I mean, I visualize this, room full of 18, 19 somethings sitting there saying, oh, this is offensive to me. Well, it's an idea, and people need to have it out there. Look, how long have offensive ideas been out there? If we couldn't project offensive ideas, comedy would be dead, because comedy has evolved that way. Media in every regard has evolved that way. It's not bad. It's just we don't stop it because I use this term snowflake pejorative in another way. I think of snowflakes to the right, and I think there's snowflakes to the left. It's somebody who has so little world experience. They're the people who grew up, mommy and daddy putting on the back of their car, my kid is an A student, my kid's the smartest kid they grew up with that mentality. And they grew up in a culture that is so politically correct that they have stopped thinking. And that's what Facebook represents.
Well, see, and I disagree. I do think there's obviously people sitting there saying, well, this is good, this is bad. But I think rather than it being the young kids making these decisions,
You think it's baby boomers, huh?
I think it's more of the, regardless of age, the people sitting there in the, expensive suits saying this story's going to piss off our advertisers.
Okay.
Let's kill that. This one, maybe it's a little too extreme. They use some words we don't like. That's going to make our advertisers bad. And with our story, people need to understand this was about the opioid crisis and how it's affecting women and killing more women than it is men. Yeah. That's what it was about.
Well, this isn't the first time it's happened.
Right. I
mean, it's been stories where we have been we've attacked the right because remember the militia day stories where we did the malicious stories. Oh, we can't do that because you use the word terror.
Yeah.
And then we would talk about the left and oh, we can't do that because whatever. And we have some. Now, I hope you're right, because if I'm right, and I genuinely hope you're right. It's not the vision I have. But, you and I disagree on a lot of things. Your vision is that this is purely corporate. My vision is that we're raising an entire generation that has been captured by this trap of political correctness, that they're afraid to speak. Is this appropriate? Is this inappropriate? I mean, come on. Yeah, there's a lot of inappropriate things, but we're grown-ups and we work through that.
Right.
I genuinely hope you're right.
Well, here's the thing. I think Facebook is wanting to kind of straddle the center, just like a lot of, Republicans and Democrats too, straddle that center, because you can't offend anybody, which means you're not going to offend your donors, you're not going to offend your advertisers, you're going to keep getting that money. And that is exactly what this $300 million to the local news stations is about. It's not about helping them, it's about buying positive coverage. The same way, Facebook's doing this the same way Boeing advertises on MSNBC or CNN. We're not going to go buy a fighter jet, but Boeing still advertises to buy the positive coverage. And that's what Facebook's doing.
Yeah, Facebook is, I'm telling you, if we don't grab control of it, and government's not going to do it.
No.
Government will not grab Facebook. The only way we grab control of it is to say, you know what, it ain't happening, it's not happening anymore, and go somewhere else. There's got to be an alternative that's built out.